You had a Mahler phase. It ended. That's what this is about. It's still great music. A lot of it is still in your head, but something in you shifted. And if you know what that something was, you're already ahead of most people. Vienna, 1910. The premiere of the 8th Symphony. 1,030 performers. An audience that included Freud and a good chunk of Europe's cultural elite. The Symphony of 1,000. No irony, that was the marketing, which Mahler considered vulgar, even as it was technically accurate. Here's what I want to be clear about. Critiquing Mahler is really critiquing the entire Romantic period, living in Beethoven's shadow. The overreach, the sentimentality, what Oscar Wilde called the luxury of an emotion without paying for it. It's all there in Brahms, Schumann, Bruckner, late Tchaikovsky. But nobody focuses that critique like Mahler does, because Mahler went all the way. Maximum sincerity, zero restraint, grotesque scale. He was the culmination of the era, and in committing so completely, he made plain what the Romantic period always was underneath the velvet and perfume. The end of La Belle Époque turned the symphony into a 5-course meal, sumptuous food for the rich, served in very specific rooms, requiring a very specific amount of leisure time and a very specific dress code. For the pre-war concert hall world, it was exactly right. A logical development, even. Then 1914 happened. Europe went into the trenches, and the Romantic Symphony, that monument to interiority, to leisure, to uninterrupted emotional indulgence, became impossible to sustain. Mahler was dead. He didn't have to watch it happen. Perhaps that was the mercy. Before the war, hearing a new symphony was a one-time event for most people in the hall. You dressed for it, you arranged your life around it, you invested because the assumption was that you would probably never hear it again. This was an audience motivated by scarcity and prestige. After the war, the LP, the 3-minute song, cinema, radio. At a certain point, sophisticated listeners figured out that Eleanor Rigby delivered a string quartet and existential dread in 2 minutes 11 seconds. And by then, the Romantic Symphony had become more trouble than it was worth. And it died. But music didn't. It just got repackaged for a world that couldn't afford to sit still for 90 minutes of orchestrated feelings. And then there was Shostakovich. There were others. Prokofiev wrote magnificent symphonies, Stravinsky, Sibelius, Vaughan Williams too. But Shostakovich was the last one who made the form feel necessary. As the last symphonist, Shostakovich took a lot from Mahler. The scale, the grotesque marches, the ironic quotations, the E-flat clarinets. But he wasn't writing for Vienna in 1910. He was writing for the Soviets. Different system, different constraints, different audience. Under those very particular Soviet circumstances, the symphony briefly meant something again. Not the Romantic Symphony, something harder, more ironic, more dangerous. The best of them still reward uninterrupted listening, but even that didn't last. Shostakovich's final symphony, the 15th, finished in 1971, is mostly a chamber piece. intimate, fragile at times. Then occasional swells into the old Shostakovich punch. But they don't last. A major, Italian tempo indications. Quotations from Rossini, from Wagner. An old man in very poor health filing through his record collection before he leaves. And then the ending. Percussion ticking like a wristwatch under an A major chord that fades to nothing. That's how the last great symphonist chose to end it. Not with a bang, with time running out. And so ended the 214-year reign of the symphony, from Haydn to Shostakovich. Not a bad run. So here's what I keep coming back to. The exhaustion you felt. The point where Mahler started to feel like too much, where the relationship between composer and listener felt one-sided, where someone else's feelings at that volume started to feel like a demand you didn't want to meet anymore. The 20th century felt it too. In the trenches, in the concert halls, in every composer who came after and decided to work smaller, work colder. You had a Mahler phase. So did Western music. It ended. And this is the end of the 1905 to 1914 series. Five videos, 1 decade, the most compressed period of musical transformation in Western history. And this is where it lands, not with a revolutionary, but with a composer who went all in on a form at the exact moment the world stopped needing it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.